It's strange that all of this is still so vague, now that marches have been marched and people have fought to live in a world full of equality and love. Palestinian poet Marid Barghouti once wrote that if you want to dispossess a people, the simplest way to do it is to tell their story and start with secondly, and you have an entirely different story. When looking at race relation, we as a people tend to listen to one side and one side only, and forget that every story has two sides, consequently leading us to only know a part to a person. Having a single story of a group of people can not only cause miscommunication within ourselves, but the world around us. According to simplypsychology.org, by stereotyping, we infer that a person has a whole range of characteristics and abilities that we assume all members of that group have. Stereotypes lead to social categorization, which is one of the reasons for prejudiced attitudes, example them and us mentally, which leads to in-groups and out-groups. This definition immediately reminded me of when a Caucasian said, "You wish you were white, don't you?" And for a long moment I was taken aback before I could even respond no. I was proud of who I was and the culture that I came from. How could I ever have possibly wanted to be something that I wasn't? Then I realized that I could never have blamed her for what she said because, as the proverb goes, it takes a village to raise a child. I realized that her abrupt question was based off of years of society putting everyone into a category. The smart Asians, the athletic African Americans, illegal Hispanics who don't speak English, rhythmically challenged Caucasians, the list goes on and on. But I must soon add as well that I have fallen into this trap of believing and or laughing at stereotypes. It's a part of our society that perhaps will never go away, but it's a part of our society that we must at least try to get rid of. Brittany Welsh, an African American student of Cambridge High School, once stated that when she was little, people assumed that she would have old hand-me-downs and tattered clothes for school events. A typical stereotype of African Americans is that they are poor and do not have money to spend on basic needs, example clothes. I too have gone through this stereotype as well. I was at a concert last year when a girl afterwards said, "Oh, did your friend let you borrow that dress?" I was appalled when I heard this because it was said in front of multiple people, it was rude, and because I didn't feel like I was thought of on the same level as my peers. No matter how smart I was, or how outgoing I was, or how hard I tried, I would always be reminded of one thing: I'm black. And for a long time, it seemed forever. A stereotype is a mold that we categorize a group of people in, which enables us to have an opinion on someone before we actually interact with them. Essentially, a stereotype provides us with the single story of another without letting us hear theirs first. This leads everyone to have a social disadvantage in the long run. In fact, according to a survey conducted by ABC News, top 20 whitest and blackest names, even something as simple as a name can cause people to lose out on jobs. In a CNN documentary entitled "Who is Black in America?" broadcasted in 2008, Soledad O'Brien interviewed many on what it means to be black. She discovered that in the end, racial identity can not only be chosen by the pigmentation of the skin, but by the decision of the person. For example, people in the video discussed how being mixed, being half white or being half black, have trouble identifying with themselves. If they do not accept both sides, they either choose one or the other or simply become other, partially due to the fact of stereotype. I come from a hardworking family where education is the top priority. Just because I don't speak Ebonics or use the current slang doesn't define the color of my skin. To act black or to act white, in my opinion, is a matter of ignorance, but it's also quite fascinating. I remember when I was about 8 years old and my cousin was visiting and she called her friend. I can still remember the utter shock and twinge of pain I felt when he said, "Is your cousin white?" It's one thing for someone of another race to tell you what you are, but it's an even wilder accusation when someone of your own race aims to let you know that you aren't one of the same. In a survey conducted at Oxbridge Academy of the Palm Beaches, when asked, "What does it mean to act black and what does it mean to act white?" 6 out of 8 students stated that acting black was to act loud, like watermelon, have weave, be ratchet, and listen to rap, while acting white meant to not have baggy clothes, speak with proper grammar, not use slang, and to be upscale. However, 3 of the 8 interviewed agreed that to act black or to act white is a stereotype and that the question was invalid because it has no meaning. You can't define the way someone acts by the color of their skin. Thus, in reality, it isn't a matter of acting black or acting white. Being black or being white has nothing to do with skin color, but is a vine that stems much deeper. For centuries, race and ethnic groups have seen themselves as superior to others. As kids, if we feel that someone else is better than us or bothers us, we find ways to tear them down. During slavery, the so-called slave masters and slaves were separated at all costs and the white race was dominant. During that time, slaves did not speak proper English due to the inability to read or write, thus creating a truly weaker race. This allowed stories to be told at the expense of both groups. However, the real problem with stereotypes is not that they're untrue, but that they're incomplete, according to Chimamanda Adichie Ngozi, a Nigerian writer. Through generations, this has turned into stereotypes that most likely began as little white lies or rumors. Not only have they been successful in their path of destruction, but they have created enemies amongst groups. They have ultimately left us with a single story. At a TED Talks convention in 2009, Ngozi stated, "The problem of the single story is this. It robs people of dignity. It makes our recognition of our equal humanity difficult. It emphasizes how we are different rather than how we are similar." Stereotypes allow us to make assumptions about a person or a group of people without interaction. If you see me in a dress and I'm walking down the street, would you want to talk to me? If you see me in sweatpants and a hoodie and I'm walking down the street, would you want to talk to me? It is said that hoodies are seen to be suspicious, dangerous, means that you're up to no good and have to deal with almost everything negative. It's a simple question, yet it makes people feel uncomfortable. A classmate of mine once said, "You can't wear a hoodie because that's shady." Well, if it's 96 degrees in the shade, you better believe that if I'm wearing a hooded jacket, I'm going to put that hood on to protect me from the sun, because it's real hot in the shade. When I first heard the lyrics to 96 Degrees in the Shade by the reggae group Third World, I thought nothing of it. And I now realize that not only is it hot in the sun, but it's even worse in the shade. Shade is something you go under to hide from the sun. Such as stereotypes are things that people hide under, good and bad, that can prevent them from being burned. But even if you're cool for a moment, you still have to go back and walk under the sunlight, not away from it. If we take a moment, we will see that we are all very similar. A look under the sun shows us that we are all one because the sun does not discriminate as it shines in us all. Malala Yousafzai once said, "We cannot succeed when half of us are held back." Maybe it's time that we look in the mirror just a little closer and realize that we really are the change we wish to see in the world. It's no longer a matter of just hoping, but a matter of doing. The world isn't going to get better by us just looking at it, but by us doing something for it. Hopefully in the future, stereotypes will be something of the past. Perhaps they will be forever present. Martin Luther King Jr. once stated, "I have a dream that one day my children will live in a nation where they are not judged by the color of their skin, but by the contents of their character." I believe this is a dream that secretly lives in each person's heart, whether it be from someone who wants the world to know that they are smart, even if they're blonde, to someone who feels that they can make a mistake without being judged because they are of Asian descent, to someone who feels that athletics isn't the only way to go to college and that they don't need grants and welfare jokes to be thrown at their feet. Maybe this is a secret dream for you, and maybe it's a secret dream for me. Whatever it is, maybe it's about time we stop keeping it a secret, and instead write down stories upon stories and show generations to come the real beauty of this steaming melting pot. As Michael Jackson once said.
It don't matter if you're black